Everything we do here at James Project focuses on caring for vulnerable women and children because we believe that's the call that God has placed on every one of us as Christians.
We are back with another James Project podcast, and today we have Lori Burge with us today. How are you, Lori?
I am good. How are you?
Good. All right. Can you tell us a little about yourself, where you're from, and how you got involved with the James Project?
Yes, I am from Kansas City. I actually don't live far from Tiffany and Brian, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Go to the same church with them. That's not where I met them, though. Actually, they spoke at a nonprofit event that I was at, sharing some of their needs. And then I had already planned a trip. This was, I think, March of 23 to go visit another ministry in Guatemala with a friend. And she had organized through Tiffany that we stop at the James Project and visit there for a couple days on our way to the other ministry. They're probably like 4 hours apart.
Wow.
And so, kind of like a vision trip, we got to look around. And I think that's what really moved my heart to want to go back.
Mm. And how many times have you been back?
So, I went back a year ago, and then I have another trip planned for October.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Are you leading the team?
I am.
Ooh.
Yes. Actually, our church
Mm-hmm.
is taking a full team of 24 to go in October.
Mm-hmm. And you get to
Yeah.
lead it.
Yeah.
Are you excited? Is this your first time leading, or did you lead last year?
I led last year. Yes. It was some couple friends of ours. There were 8 of us
Mm-hmm.
on the team. And so it was my husband's first time out of the country on a missions trip.
Okay.
And it was another one. It was his first time out of the country. So yeah, it was, and we built a chicken coop, which was super fun for the
Yeah.
guys to do. And the ladies did some vacation Bible school stuff with the kids. We got to pray for all the house parents. We went around and met with them. And yeah, it's really neat. Each of those couples that went with Chris and I are still involved in different ways of supporting. And so that's neat to see.
That is neat. And what did Chris think of it? Will he go again in October?
He will not go again,
Okay.
but he said it was life-changing and worth going.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Good. Yeah. Are you excited to lead such a big team?
I actually have a gal helping, so I won't be. She hasn't been before,
Mm-hmm.
but she's helping put the team together. She kind of oversees international trips
Mm-hmm.
as a leader for the church.
Oh, good.
So she's helping me organize things. So that'll be great.
It's good. It's a lot of counting every time you go somewhere and make sure you have.
Yes. A lot of opinions and a lot of, but a lot of experiences, which is awesome.
Yes, it's super fun. I've had different sizes of teams. The last one I took was 20. It's fun. You just bente. We got bente everywhere we go. So, we're going to talk about James Project. Why is it called the James Project, and the verse that is the founding verse, which is James 1:27. So, what does that verse mean to you? I know you have a special connection to that.
Yes, I was actually going to read it out of the Amplified Bible.
Oh, I love the
And it says, pure and unblemished religion in sight of our God and Father is this: to visit and look after the fatherless and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself uncontaminated by the world.
Mhm.
And I love this verse as it talks about pure religion. And so I actually looked up the word pure.
Mm-hmm.
It means not mixed with any other substance or material. It means free of any contamination.
Wow.
And so I thought that was really neat that, I think there's a part of all of us that as believers that we want to do what's right and good before God, and thinking that he's telling us the widows and the orphans, like to him, are the ones that type of serving in religion is pure to him. It's not contaminated. And just what that means to be able to serve that way. Not that that's the only way,
No.
but I feel like he is highlighting that in James 1. And another thing that stands out to me for that verse is the first time that I went to Guatemala was actually in the late 80s. I was in college, and a group from our church was going down to serve, and I was interested and curious about this adventure. I'd heard good things
Mm-hmm.
about the trip and wanted to go. And they were actually serving widows. And I was looking up just the Guatemalan Civil War. I don't know if you know about it, but it actually started in 1960 and it lasted for 36 years.
Mm-hmm.
And over, one site told me 200,000, one said 300,000 were killed during that time. And a lot of it was the smaller villages, and the guerrillas would hide up in the mountains. And so, of course, most of those were men that were killed, leaving a lot of widows and orphans.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what we were doing as a team back then was going down and just building like 4 walls out of plywood for these widows to have shelter.
Wow.
And that during that time in the late 80s on this trip, one of the verses I remember our leader sharing was James 1:27,
Mm-hmm.
because these widows were the ones that we were focused on. And I remember him sharing about it being pure and undefiled religion. And I was just really struck by that. So it's very significant to me. And I love that the James Project focuses on that and serves those in Guatemala and makes a place for them to call home,
Mm-hmm.
and brings, allows them to have a mom and dad in a house, and just those things that they've lost. So it's very significant, and especially before God. And I was thinking about that verse and how it makes me remember Matthew 25,
Mm-hmm.
where it talks about the least of these. And I think of orphans and widows a lot of times fit in that category. So I'm going to read just part of this. This is actually 25 is a long chapter, but this is where he's talking about the sheep and the goats.
Mm-hmm.
And so the part that I was just going to read at the end, it says, they also will answer, Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or naked or sick or in prison and did not minister to you? And he replies to them, I assure you and most solemnly say to you, to the extent that you did not do it for one of the least of these, you did not do it for me. And just how when we serve the orphans and widows, we're really serving Jesus because they can't, oftentimes, especially in Guatemala, they can't make it on their own. And the women in Guatemala oftentimes aren't educated. And if they lose their husband, they're stranded. And it's very hard to survive. And so I just love this verse that Jesus is saying, we're doing it for him.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also think about when you were talking about it being pure and undefiled, serving the least of those, I think that what comes to mind for me is it it stays pure because they can't give anything in return. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's pure because you're doing it because you care about them, not to get something in return. I mean, you think about the different religions of this world and even the different Christian denominations of this world that have gone astray into different areas that, for their own benefit, or even in the Pharisees and when in Jesus's time, how they had set up a religion that benefited them and
Mm,
way more ways than need be. So that's what it reminds me of, like pure, that there's the only reason you're doing is to serve him because they can't pay you back. They can't give you anything in return for your service other than their appreciation. Do you know what I mean? So
yes.
you really can't, you're not doing it for power. You're not doing it for fame. You're not doing it for money. There's none of that's involved. None of it's even an option. So um, I like that. That's what I think of when I think of pure and undefiled. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also feel like when we serve those as unto Jesus, we oftentimes are the ones that get blessed.
Hmm.
We go to serve, but then it turns, and like Chris said, his life was changed from going and experiencing what God's doing there
Hmm.
and getting out of our culture and experiencing God in theirs
Hmm. Yeah.
and how much he loves those people, those children.
Hmm. Yeah, not that he loves us any less, but we have so many comforts in our world up here that make it hard to see him as readily as down there. So we often think we've got it all under control, so we don't really need him. That's why it's so sad when you see a tragedy and that's when the churches are filled. It's disappointing, but
Yeah.
we get very clouded.
Yeah.
What do you think about? Well, but there are ways to serve orphans and widows up here as well. Like it doesn't have to be that you have to go to a foreign country, right?
Right.
So, what are some ways that you can that you know of people serving where we are, or in the states?
I think there's a lot of awesome ministries in the States that serve. I've volunteered with some ministries that have women coming out of trafficking. And yeah, there's not one um, spot that God has his hand on. So yeah, I would encourage people to seek it out
Mhm.
and where God's calling them to serve.
Mm.
And if you haven't been to the James Project, I would say go there too.
Right, right. Even just for a one-time visit, like I mean, like you said, Chris, it changed his life, and I'm sure it changes how he interacts every day and what he thinks about every day since he's been there. Um,
Yes. Yeah. And when we went, we were able to go do food baskets.
mhm,
And I think it's always eye opening to see the poverty and the way that people are so blessed when you show up and love on them, even in the midst of having nothing,
mhm,
that they still can have the joy of the Lord
mhm.
um, in that environment.
Yeah.
And yet we're able, like this verse, to be his hands and feet and serve the least of these. And it's beautiful.
Mhm. Yeah, and even if they don't have the joy of the Lord, because their situation is particularly hard. I mean, we visited some, I'm thinking of 2 or 3 of them, where the mom was just in tears, because
It's
life is
hard.
so hard, and we
Yeah.
just got to love on them more and pray for them specifically about what they were struggling with, and it's heartbreaking, but to be able to bless them at least with some to meet some needs is a great thing to be able to do. But yeah, it's hard to imagine. I mean, you look in their houses and they may have a mattress, but it probably doesn't have sheets, or it may not be on a bed frame. It may just be on the ground, and they may not even have a mattress. Like simple things that we take for granted that, we go to bed every night. We don't lay in bed, say, thanks God for my mattress, but we should, because not everyone has one. And it's always a good reminder. And for me, I remember when the first time I took my daughter, she was 10, and when we came home after a really long day of traveling, she was headed up to her room to go to bed, and I was behind her and to get her to tuck her in, and she said, "Is it wrong that I feel bad that I have so much and they have so little?" And I said, "No, that's not wrong. It's good to be aware, that
Mhm.
you are very blessed, and there are people less fortunate." So yeah,
Yeah,
it's quite an impact. Good
definitely.
perspective check for sure, because we
Yes.
complain about things. I mean, we complain about things that would be many of those people's best day. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
it was everything.
Yeah. But it's amazing at the James Project, the joy of the kids, even in the midst of not even having their own home. They share a home with
Mhm,
10 other kids and parents that aren't theirs,
mhm.
but yet they still have joy.
Yeah,
And it's really awesome to experience how God shows up in
yeah,
that place and meets those kids
yeah.
coming out of super hard
Mhm.
stories.
Well, yeah. And they get to be kids. They have a playground and they have activities, and they just get to be kids. They have chores. They get to learn what it's like to be in a healthy family. So it's a beautiful thing. They have school. It's just a lot of stability and a lot of good just childhood stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a wonderful thing. What do you think about when the James Project focuses on the first part of that verse about caring for orphans and widows, we don't often mention the second part of that verse about and keeping oneself undefiled by the world. What do you think about that? How does that play into the verse in general and what the James Project is doing?
I guess I feel like we can get entangled with a lot of things in the world. And I feel like it does kind of tie together
Mhm,
with when we're serving and offering as unto Jesus, it helps get our eyes off of ourselves or the things that we can get distracted by that aren't good for us.
mhm,
And I think a part of that is remembering what he's saying about religion, pure and undefiled religion is doing this. Um and so it's easy. I think like you said, the comforts that we have,
mhm,
all the things that we can get distracted with, um and kind of get focused in on our needs, I need the next thing.
yeah, yeah. I know. I tell my kids, I heard this quote somewhere: when we busy ourselves with God's work, he busies himself with ours. Like we don't have to take care of ourselves. We and I don't mean that, and we don't have to eat well and exercise and take care of ourselves. I mean, we don't have to worry about where our needs are going to be met, because he wants to care for us. If we focus on caring for others, that comes along with it. Do you know what I mean? Like when we get so
Yes.
inwardly focused, it's hard for us to we're basically trying to be self-reliant. But if we say, I trust you with our needs, so I'm going to go and serve someone else, he loves to show up for those things. So yeah.
Mhm.
And I think too, being undefiled, that pure and undefiled religion, again, they can't give anything in return for our service. When you serve the least of these, they can't pay you back. So you're not getting that monetary reward, or that can turn into something like you're doing it for the wrong reasons. Do you know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yes. Exactly. Yeah, it's more um doing it for him. Like the Matthew 25 says, when you do it for those, you're doing it to me,
Mhm.
not for a payback.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's one of the best arguments for the Gospels to be eyewitness testimonies, and the disciples to be telling the truth, because normally a conspiracy or something like that has to hinge on you're doing it for power, money, or something worldly like that, and they got none of that, and they died for their beliefs. So
Mhm.
you know, yeah, they definitely did it for the least of us. So
Yes.
yeah. So, speaking of taking teams, as we were earlier, what is your overall experience to having taken teams down? Um, what do you think, watching other people experience it? What do you think is the most impactful thing for them?
I would say, based on last year's team, that it is a place where you are kind of immersed into a group of people that are so um surrounded, like the atmosphere is like almost holy in a way, and you're able to see how little they have, especially compared to the United States. Like, they have such a small amount that they call their own,
Mm-hmm.
and yet they have so much joy. And really, it helps open our eyes to what really matters. And it's that experiencing it. I think you can um, read about it, hear about it, but when you're on the ground there and you're able to really um, taste and see what it's like, and play with the kids and see that it's different and it's beautiful, and it's just such a great experience to see it with your own eyes.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, I noticed that people, when you go down, especially in a team, you're living in a team house, you're sharing a room with 6 or 8 other people, you're sharing a bathroom or 2 bathrooms, or 2 showers in one bathroom, and other people are making your food for you, and so you don't get to choose what you're going to eat. Like, it just seems to be such a beautiful way to take our minds off ourselves. Do you know what I mean? Because you can't be focused on your own comfort, you can't be focused on what you want in that scenario. You have to just roll with it, and you have to be willing to open yourself up to that. And I find that when people do, it's just such a beautiful thing, because they can receive everything that's going on, and they can be open to every experience that they're having. And they're not, I mean, nobody's worried about their hair or their makeup or their outfit, or you're just so unconsumed by anything that we normally are consumed with up here. And it's so
Yeah.
freeing to just be, and to be with a group of people. And you you regularly have devotions, which is just sharing about the day and sharing emotions and communicating, and all the things that we should be doing as healthy human beings. But we don't, we hide our things, and we stay clammed up, or pretend everything's fine. And when we're there, you just open up, I think, because all of the exterior stuff is out of the way.
Yes.
Yeah. I love that about trips.
Definitely.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
everybody's tired, so your guard is down anyway. So you're more willing to share. by the end of the week, for sure, you're just like, yes, I am tired. I will tell you whatever you would like to hear. Not whatever you'd like to hear, but I will be open. Because I have
Yes.
had some people on teams that it's harder for them to open up. It takes longer. I know even for my first trip down, I wasn't a team leader and I was pretty clammed up most of the time and just more observed. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely different and can be a little, take a little bit to get used to, but so worth it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And even if people don't want to go on a team, how else can they get involved in this kind of work?
Well, I was going to say after I got back, I helped. There's some golf tournaments. I think we have maybe 2 every fall, and that's always a great way. So I help volunteer. But if you're not in Kansas City, you can always help sponsor
Mhm.
or donate. There's lots of ways. And then I also suggested to Tiffany, what if we consider doing a pickleball tournament?
Mhm.
So we started that, and that turned out really well. And we just had one like a month ago, our
Mhm.
second one. And so that's super exciting. And that's another way that you can offer to sponsor or to serve. And yeah, you can also sponsor kids.
Yeah.
That's another way that is really great
Mhm.
to give them more support.
Yeah. And you get to connect with the kids. You get to email them once a month and they'll email
Yes.
you back. So that's really fun. And they
Yeah.
love getting mail.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Anything interesting about some of your trips or anything interesting about this team you're taking in October that stands out to you that you're excited about? In particular?
Well, we're going to have our first meeting next weekend.
Mhm.
So we had such a good turnout at our info meeting that, yeah, we probably had almost 40 people show up
Oh,
to get more info. So super excited to meet the actual team next weekend.
mhm.
And we're actually talking about taking some temporary pickleball nets down
Oh,
to teach the kids. And then we'll leave them there so more teams can play
mhm,
when they go down.
mhm.
So that's exciting.
Oh, that would be so fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't
Do you have a time that you're going?
I was going to take a team this year, but it was too close to the time that I have to bring my daughter to college. So
Okay.
she and I may make a trip down. I'm not sure, but not with a team this year, unfortunately. It's just too tight. So
Yes.
heading off to
Yes.
college is a big deal.
Well, I've heard January and February are great times to go. So maybe we should think about that.
Right. Yes, because there's a vision trip in January too, and that's when they hike the volcano. Have you hiked the volcano?
I would love to do that.
Me too.
I've only done the volcano near the James Project that has the water in the bottom,
Yep, yep,
but
yep.
I've heard good things about the other one.
Yes, yes. It would be very exciting. Yeah. Yeah. We'll have to look into that.
Yes.
So, how do you think that these kinds of trips, just one last question, do you think that how do you think they impact the kids and the staff?
Well, the trip that we did last year, Tiffany encouraged us to what we could set up for the staff. And so we decided at like 8 o'clock at night when the kids went to bed, we would go through and we would pick, I think there's 10 houses
Mhm.
maybe. And so we would do 2 or 3 a night. And we'd go like at 8 o'clock to 8:30 for one house, 8:30 to 9 for one house, and we split up into 2 teams, and we just prayed over the mom and dad of each house, and it was amazing.
Mm,
They serve those kids
mhm.
and so well, and pour out. And it was awesome to be able to just bless them and pray for them. And some of the house dads just cried, and we're so blessed that we took time to focus on them and love on them. And so it was beautiful. And then our team also did some staff team building projects, and that was super fun to get the staff together. And we did some art with them, and we did some like a devotional, and yeah, it was really neat to just get them together and encourage them as well.
Yeah. And I'll say it doesn't always have to be serious. Last year we did Olympics, the Olympic theme throughout, and we did contests with the house, the kids. But then we also had the parents do. Do you remember that game, the Newlywed Game, where
Yes.
so we did similar to that, but how well do you know your neighbor? So we paired up like house dads with each other, and we'd have to ask the question, and one person would have to answer it. And if they got it right, from guessing for the other person, they got a point. And that was so fun. They laughed and they had such a good
Aw.
time. It was so fun. And we did it for, I mean, we did the men first, and they did great. There was probably 8 of them, I think. And we had opened it to the staff, all the staff. So by the time the women were up there, all of a sudden there were psychologists coming and office staff coming. And so we had like all these people up on the stage trying to do like all these different, and the cooks were coming out. And so we had a lot. It was a lot, but it was so fun. They laughed and had such a good time. So yes, it doesn't
Yes.
always have to be serious, but
That's right.
it was fun. It's good to minister to them. So
Yes.
yeah. So we want people to visit because we know how impactful it is for us and the people we visit. But definitely getting involved in your area, serving somewhere, serving somebody, because we just get so focused on ourselves. And it that, in my opinion, when we focus so much on ourselves, it's people think, oh, I got to take care of me or whatever. But not only does it make us hyper focused on what we need, but it also, like, I feel like it also, what's the word I'm looking for, makes our problems even bigger. It magnifies them. That's the word I was looking for, because you're just only focused on yourself. And so I find the easiest way to stop thinking about my problems is to go help somebody else, because then it gets my mind off it and I feel good. And so anyway, I would
It's
encourage
true.
you to do that. Yeah. Did we finish? I mean, did we miss anything that you wanted to share?
I think we covered it all.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Of course.
All right. I hope you have a
Okay.
wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks. You too.
Thanks.